Hello and welcome to Finger Thinking, a channel dedicated to analog productivity and creativity tools. Okay, so at the risk of being branded a heretic, because this is a channel dedicated to analog productivity and creativity tools, today I'm going to do an overview of the Brother AX-15 Electronic Typewriter. Now it's a bit of a departure from what I usually kind of do, and there isn't anything for me to fix on this typewriter, but I do use it a reasonable amount, and it is a little bit different to the manual typewriters for some good reasons that I just wanted to talk through today. So I've had this typewriter for about a year now. I did pick it up for free on Marketplace. The bloke who advertised it, he'd had it since new, and it had been advertised for $30 for a few weeks, and I was umming and ahhing, like, oh, do I or don't I? And then he dropped the price to free, and so I raced out and got it. In the ad it said it doesn't have any ribbons, but then when I picked it up, it not only had a ribbon in it, but he'd managed to find another 4. So that was pretty good. So I was pretty happy with that. It also has the manual, though I don't know where I've put the manual. It's somewhere in the house, but I can't put my finger on it. Anyway, this is a surprisingly nice machine, and so I'll talk through it. But yeah, if you get one, make sure you get one that works, because I have no idea how to fix these. I have no desire to learn how to fix these. So I'm just going to take my chances. Now, first thing I think I'll talk about the ribbons in this. So one of the things that were different when the electronic typewriters came along was the ribbons went from just like the black and red 1/2-inch ribbons to being in a cartridge. Now this is when we saw basically the introduction of the kind of consumables as a revenue line. Most of the ribbons in this are correctable ribbons, so the lift-off carbon ribbons. This one's a nylon ribbon, which weren't as common, but they were available. I do have some correctable ribbons. Now, when I initially thought, I'll do a review on the AX-15, I thought I'll be able to say that this is a good electronic typewriter because you can still get the ribbons for it. But sometime in the last few months, they've stopped selling the ribbons. I'm just going to put that back in there. There we go. So the ribbon is this Brother, the 1030 ribbon. So this is the correctable one, the carbon ribbon. Now, Brother has just discontinued this recently. So if you have this machine and you don't have spare ribbons, as soon as I bought this machine, I jumped onto Amazon and I picked up like 10 of them for about $6 each. So they were cheaper than a decent, like, traditional typewriter ribbon. But I'm glad I bought the 10 because they are discontinued now. A lot of the sites in Australia have sold out. You used to be able to get them at Officeworks, our big national stationer, and they don't carry them anymore. They still carry the correction tapes, which we'll have a look at in a moment. I don't have a new correction tape because I don't use them, so I haven't bothered buying any, but I'll show you how that works in a sec. I think there are a couple of aftermarket vendors and suppliers of Brother ribbons, but again, there's not a huge market for these anymore, so I don't know how much longer you'll be able to get those either. So if you do buy one of these in the future, then I would be looking to buy as many ribbons as I could at the same time. Now, this ribbon, one of the good things about this ribbon is that unlike like printer cartridges nowadays where each printer cartridge only suits half a dozen printers, this basically covered the whole Brother line of typewriters. So yeah, but they're So made in the USA, packed in Japan. I hadn't even looked at that. That seems a little odd, but okay. So they're not making them in the USA at all now. So keep your eye out for these if you have a machine that uses them. Now, oops-a-daisy. So if we just have a look at the machine from the beginning, basically. So it's a pretty simple machine when it comes to levers and switches and knobs and bits and pieces, in that there aren't many. So the machine itself, this is what it looks like when it's all to be packed up. So it does come with the keyboard cover to protect the plate and keep the dust out of the little kind of typing print head, and it acts as a paper stand. So there's this flap. Now there is this little compartment back here which comes out like this, and you can put the cord, in the electric cord, in there. So that's all quite. So when you can pack this up. Okay, you can pack this up so it's just a nice neat little unit. One of the things that this doesn't have is a case with a handle on it. So whilst I reckon it's pretty portable in that it's larger than a manual typewriter, but it weighs about the same as a lot of the old fully mechanical portables. So yeah, you're not going to break your back moving this around. But yeah, it's not a handle model. Now on the outside of it, so all we have is a paper release lever and then the platen knobs on either side. The rest of it is really plain. So turn this around. There's nothing on the side. On the back, yeah, so just the compartment for the cord. A few kind of bit of air vents in the molding. Now over here we have the model number and the serial number. So it's on a sticker now, not stamped inside the machine on a metal part. Now, so this is a brother model AX-15. Sorry. So my understanding is with the brother serial numbers is that the months are the first character in the serial number, which here is, this is quite heavy, sorry, is a J. So like A is January, B is February, C is March, etc. They don't use I because that looks like a 1. So December is an M, which is the 13th letter of the alphabet. Now J is September. So this looks like it was made in September of the 8th year of the decade. Now this wasn't being made in 1978 or 1998, so it was definitely a 1988 machine. 15 corresponds to the model number, which is the AX-15, AX-15, and then 04931, which means this is almost the 5,000th machine made in September of 1988. So that's a pretty solid way to date it. What it suggests is they didn't make more than 100,000 or 999,000 of these machines each month, depending on whether they started at a 0 or a 1 for the serial number. And so, yeah, that still, they still probably cranked out a couple million of these. I can't find heaps about the background, to be honest. Like there doesn't seem to be a lot of kind of passion for the electronic typewriters. And I do understand that, like in some respects they are completely devoid of character, but there are a couple of features about this that suit me in some circumstances. So yeah, so this machine is also made in Japan. Now it creaks a lot, right? Every time you touch a part on this, the plastic creaks, and I'm a little worried that it might crack at some point, but so far so good. But I am careful with this cover when I take it off. So that just pulls up, and then it's got little lugs at the bottom. I'm careful to make sure that I put this somewhere that is flat, because I really don't want to crack this. This machine's in very good condition. So look, I had to give it a little bit of a wipe down, get the other person's germs off it. I can't get rid of this black mark, but the machine is in great condition. The plastic yellows with age, that's just, it is what it is. So you're going to find all of the ones this age are a little bit yellow. As soon as you get into like the mid-90s, where they were still making a later iteration, but with a different model number, the plastic on those seems to have stayed its more original beigey colour. But yeah, these are pretty yellow. It doesn't affect the function of the machine. Now, if we run through, what I want to do is actually give a full comprehensive overview of what this machine does, partly because there isn't a lot of that on the internet. And so, yeah, because I'm not fixing anything, I may as well just show you everything this machine does, because there is some merit to having one of these. If you can find one of these for not much money, like you're not going to be paying $100 for this. There are better typewriters to spend $100 on, but they are regularly popping up. People tend to list them frequently for a lot more money than they're worth, and then you'll find that as the seller discovers no one's paying $100 or $150 for an electronic typewriter, they'll drop down, and often they'll be $10 or $20 or even free. And there is quite a range of these, right? So I don't have a comprehensive listing, but this is AX-15. There is an AX-10, which I think is a little bit older and kind of has some kind of grey, browny plastic features. There's a 25. There is, I think there's a 20 as well. There is a 250, like an AX-250, an AX-325, an AX-450. And as the numbers get higher, I think the models get newer and they do have a few more features. But say the AX-450, that's a 90s model. Like, so that's going to have a lot more features than this. But the other thing that happens as they get newer, this at the moment is an electronic machine, but it doesn't have the little preview window on it. So where you type and it gives you a chance to correct any mistakes before it actually prints it. But when this one was free, yeah, I thought, and I did Google that I could get the ribbons for it before I went to pick it up. So I thought I'll take a chance. And it doesn't have the preview window. So I expected that meant that when I hit the keys, that would strike the platen immediately. It's almost the case, and we'll get to that in a sec. The action is a little bit different. But yeah, so this is still dumb enough for me to be happy. As soon as you have that little word processing window on it, I'm actually not interested. It's getting a little bit too far down the modern technology spectrum for me. Anyway, so I think the first thing we need to do is turn this on, put some paper in it, and we'll go through all of the features of the typewriter. So the platen is hidden under that flap. And well, first we'll turn it on. So the switch is just down here. So when we turn it on, we'll see that this little kind of print head bit, I actually don't know if that's what it's called, but I'm going to call it a print head. I think you'll understand. Yeah, so that initializes. And if I get a piece of paper. Okay, well, before I load the paper, actually, so there is a paper guide here, and we load the paper manually. So you can have the paper guide wherever you want. It's actually quite a reasonable range to set your paper. For some reason, they have a ruler at the front, but they don't have a ruler at the back. So to make sure, I want everything lined up with 0, so I just get my ruler out, and I'll just put this kind of here and go rightio by eye. Okay, that's about at 0. And then I can load in my paper. So it just sits at the back. It loads like a normal typewriter, so manual feed that in. You do have your paper release here, so if it feeds a little bit crooked, you can fix that up. The other option that you have, but I don't use it, I prefer to load manually. Technically you can sit the paper in here and then just press the enter key to feed the paper. I don't like doing that. I think it's a little slow. I'd rather just adjust it with the knob myself. Now, it is basically an infinite adjust. There's no click, 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 click. So there's no discernible ratchet on a gear like there is on a manual typewriter. So feed that into where you want it to go, and then yeah, start typing. Now the paper bale, and this is kind of funny, right? So normally when I put a piece of paper in to start typing, I like the top of the page to, first of all, I generally actually will put in like the date, right? So I am filming this on, I think it's the 6th of April. Let's see. So, okay, so I like to do that. And with this one, that's so high up, it's nowhere near the paper bale. But anyway, so we'll just, okay. And so it does, you kind of weld down the paper before it reaches the paper bale. And the other thing that you'll see with this machine is just where the typing sits relative to your eye. Like I'm used to, on a normal typewriter, the platen's sitting a lot higher, the carriage is sitting higher, and you see the typing is really clear, like it's not hidden down in the type basket. But this machine, where the actual line that it types on is buried kind of halfway, literally halfway down the platen. And that's a little bit frustrating. That's kind of in a con on this machine, but then you do get used to it. And I typically use my machines for brain dumping, right? So I can touch type. I know I type poorly whenever I'm filming these videos, but I can technically touch type. And so when I'm just downloading thoughts from my brain, I'm not really kind of paying attention to where the type sits. I might not even be looking at the typewriter. I'm just like looking away and typing. Now the paper bale looks like it's rectangular from this angle, but it's just kind of like a three-sided bent section here. And so it just feels weird. I keep thinking the paper's going to get caught in it. It doesn't. There's no reason for me to think that, but in my head, the paper's going to get caught in it. One of the things that will take just a little bit to learn, unless you're typing on lined paper or something like that, is just how far you want to feed the paper in before you start typing. Just because, yeah, the typing line does sit so much further down than you are used to. Now, on my manual typewriters, I typically type with 2 sheets of paper, and the backing sheet I have, I've ruled it up so I can see the top and the bottom margins. And so that works fine with manual typewriters. I find that this doesn't feed 2 sheets of paper very well, so I don't use 2 sheets. I don't use a backing sheet in this. I think the daisy wheel mechanism, I haven't got to that bit yet, but this is a daisy wheel, not a typical traditional type basket, type slug action. So that it's just not as hard on the platen. So you can do lots of typing and the platen isn't going to wear out like it does on a manual typewriter. And also it doesn't matter how hard you hit these keys, the machine is just going to strike the platen consistently at a consistent, with consistent force. So with all that said, I think what I need to do is just type a row and we'll see how we go. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in on that a little bit. Okay, so this is what I can't spell. Anyway, so this is what the typeface looks like. I've forgotten the name of it. We'll pull the wheel out in a minute and have a look. But this machine, yeah, so it types really nicely. It's always even. This is a nylon ribbon, so it looks a little bit different to the carbon ribbons. But yeah, so it types. All I want it to do is put letters on paper. Now the problem with this, now I've manually fed that up. Now if I go, oh, I want to go back to this row, and this is one thing that manual typewriters do really well. On a manual typewriter, I can just go click, 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 and it's really easy to see where I started, where I was in my row. Whereas this one, you can kind of get it right because it's effectively an infinite adjustment. You can't, so I can put it down to where I think, and this whole bar gives you an idea of, like, gives you the underline for where the key will strike. But that can be really hard to gauge. When you have an electronic machine, habit will have you wanting to adjust, to move up and down with the platen knobs. You can't do that. You need to learn how to use, let's move this back. You need to learn how to use the enter and then the reverse on this machine, which does take a moment. It's not intuitive, and so many times it's just muscle memory to go and move. As soon as you do that, it does mess with the lines a little bit. Again, I'm not doing formal typing on this, so if I manually move it up and go, oh crap, I need to move it back, and the line spacing slightly out, the world's not going to end. But just something to keep aware of. Now with this, so at the moment I have this on 10 characters per inch spacing. So one of the things that the electronic machines do is they give you an option for 10 characters per inch or 12 characters per inch. So there's a little button here called line, sorry, not the line button, the pitch button. So it defaults to 10 characters per inch. If I push that, we can see that the 12 now has the light on it. So that is 12 characters per inch. So I'll try and write the same line again. Okay. If I zoom in, okay, so we can see that the spacing, is narrower as we expect it to be. So next, I think we'll look at the line spacing. Okay, so I'm going to type a few lines and show the line spacing. So there are three options. There's a single line, there's a 1.5 spacing, and then there's a double spacing. So I'll just do a little bit of typing and then show you the spacings in a sec. So single spacing, now when I want the 1.5 spacing, I have to push the line button again and it lights up the 1 and 2 lights at the same time. So that means 1.5 spacing. No, it's not. This is 1.5 spacing. Sorry about that. I pressed the enter before I'd actually changed the button. So now I want to do double spacing. So I just push it again and it's 2. So that's what happens. You just push this and it cycles through 1, 1.5, 2. So now it's on 2. I can press enter. Okay, so that's pretty standard. So there's 1.5 spacing here and then there's double spacing in this row. So nothing fancy there. Now with the enter key, we have a couple of ways to advance the paper. So I just don't want to get through my paper before I have to. So we've just discussed, don't use the platen knobs. You'll mess everything up for yourself. So the first way to get through the spacing, I'm just going to put it back on single spacing, is with the enter key. So it's pretty standard. Now, if I want to go back, what I use is I use this code button. So we're pushing the code button. What that means is when you hold that down and push any of the buttons with a green logo, it means that you activate the green logo. So in later models, I think this becomes an Alt button. So code and rev, so this is reverse, is back up. And then I just keep going until I see, this is going to be a bit hard to see on camera, I might have to tip this up. So we can see that basically what I've been typing has almost disappeared from view, but it is sitting on the line of the paper kind of guide. But yeah, so that's a little bit frustrating. Again, the typing sitting down does annoy me. I don't know if that happens on all machines. I haven't got my QS300 out to check, but that will annoy you. So when we press enter, it returns, so it's like enter on your keyboard. It moves down a row and it returns the little print head to the left orientation. Now, if we're partway through a row and we want to move the paper up or down without returning to the beginning of the row, so to move it down, we press index, and then that just advances the paper a single line space every time, without resetting the print head. And then if we want to then kind of back the paper back up again, code and reverse. Okay, and we're back to where we started. So that's really, really handy if you wanted to, if you don't want to have the carriage returning every single time you're shifting up and down. So that's the line spacing. Next, we'll look at the margins. So at the moment, I have this set on, well, what would be 1 inch. So even though this ruler here is in how many characters per inch, right? So 10 characters per inch, then obviously it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's really easy. But 12, well, that's your 12 times table up to 108. So I have this set on 1 just because it's a nice 1 inch margin. I think I have it set on 1, and at the other end it's on 7.5, which means that the right margin is a little less than 1 inch. But by the time, normally you enter after it beeps as opposed to when it stops writing. I try not to have to use the margin release every time. It's a bad habit. With the margin, so set here now, if I wanted to set my margin at 2, so all I have to do is move over to 2, and this little guide here, so this marker here lines up with the line for 2. And then what I do is I press the L-mar, so that left margin button. I just have to press that once. And then let's just check now. If I press enter, my left margin is set to the 2. Now if I wanted to set my right to, let's put that on 6. So I'm just going to go full to the right at the moment. I have no tab set, so I've just hit the tab button. That takes me to the right and I'm on 7.5. So if I want to set that to 6, all I do is again move the carriage to 6 and line the guide up with my 6 mark, but this time I'll hold down code and press right margin. And so now if I enter, it takes me to 2, and then now I have no tab set, so that it takes me to 6. I don't like those margins, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit margin release. I'm going to take this back to where it was, and right margin, and then let's just go, and I don't want it there, margin release, and left margin and get it back to 1. So if I enter, there we go. All right, so let's take this back up a couple of lines. All right, so then the margins. Now the tabs, again, also pretty self-explanatory. So we have a tab plus, tab minus. So if I want to set my first tab at 2, get it to 2, I press tab plus. If I wanted a second margin at 3, press tab plus. All right, now my tab key is this one. It should look familiar. This is certainly what, the buttons are smaller nowadays, but this is certainly what the tab key used to look like on a keyboard, on a computer keyboard. So just press that once. There we go. And there we go. So that's just for the tabs. And again, if I, so that's another quick one. If I want to go to the beginning of the row, but not advance the paper as well, all I do is I press code and the backspace button. So when I don't press code, that's the backspace button, and then code takes me all the way back to the beginning of the line, but I'm still on the same line. It hasn't advanced, like if I pressed return. Let's go back up. So if I wanted to delete the tab, I can just tab out to the tab, then code and the T minus key. And again, tab to the next one, code and the T minus key. If I go back to the beginning, my tabs are gone. Now, there will be a combination of keys you push to remove all of the tabs. I don't remember what that is. And because I can't find the manual, I'm really sorry about that. But I'm sure that's enough to keep you productive at the very least. Okay. So let's look at the typing. So the typing, there is, so lowercase, then the shift keys, and then caps lock, and it's actually lit up. So lit up like your normal keyboard. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Now these green little lines and numbers on the keys, these again also are activated by the code. So you'll notice that the keyboard is smaller than a normal keyboard. It does have a degree symbol, which is pretty cool. If we can see that. So that's pretty nifty. You don't even have that on normal keyboards. You have to go into symbols to get that. But yeah, so that's pretty tricky. And the other symbols that it has is, so it's got your kind of less than, greater than sign symbols. So hold code down, they come out. I'll enter it up in a second. You have your kind of end of line symbol. I actually don't know what that's called. But this is the character for enter. So you've got that. You have this little squiggle thing, and then you have a 2 and a 3 in Superscript. Good gracious. That took that took a moment. And then, yeah, so that's, and everything else is just, you type like a normal keyboard. Now, one of the functions, you'll see there's a few functions up here. So one of the functions, this function here, is actually the underline function. So I'm going to return to the beginning. I want to use up the space in the middle, so I'm just going to reverse the paper a little bit. Now, if I do code and 4, this turns on underlining on. So now I can start typing. So it takes a lot longer because it's doing 2 keystrokes for every space it advances. But then when we can see that I now have underline. So it's kind of doing a T and an underline. And so the daisy wheel's kind of busy doing this. which is why that takes so long. But because it's electronic, there's obviously like 8 kilobytes of RAM or something in this somewhere along the line, and you can type ahead and it will remember. Okay, so another function that this has is it centers, right? So it's pretty nifty. So this function here, CTR, is center. So I'm left justified at the moment, but say I wanted to type a few words in the center of the page. I don't have to guess what that is. All I have to do is do code center. So it now centers the little print head, and I can type my sentence. And that, what I've just typed makes no sense. So so it's busy doing the maths of how far it needs to travel back to start writing what I've typed. And then if I hit enter, and what I've actually forgotten to do is I've forgotten to turn, so I'll zoom that in. So that's in the center of the page. How cool is that? I've actually forgotten to turn the underline off. So how, which is why that took so long. So how I turn the underline off is I just code and off, and now underline is off. So if I go back up a little bit. Okay, so now underline is off. Now, with the center, I can do that whenever I want. It won't stay in the center. It will only type one row in the center. Then it will go back to just left justified. Okay, I'm having a bit of a mind blank as to what the RMF actually does. So I'm just going to type something. Oh, of course, right margin. I'm an idiot. So that's what that is, duh. So what that is we've got a few words at the beginning, but if I want to move this over to the right and then type something. So for example, like when I've typed in the center, I type the keys that I want, it remembers them. So I also have to remember which key I've struck. And then I can just hit enter. Okay, and so now I have, so here are a few words, and then this is the right margin. So what you would have seen the print head do was move all the way to the right, and then each time I hit a key, it would move back one, so it knew exactly where to start. So that's really, really nifty. On some of the newer machines, they also do bold, and how they do that is they double strike. So they'll hit a letter and then the carriage will move, I don't know if it's a half space or a quarter space along, and then it'll hit the letter again. So basically every letter is a double strike, and then it ends up being bold. This machine doesn't have that function. But yeah, it does other really nifty stuff. Now, another thing that this does is it has a superscript and a subscript function. So if I now press code and up, oh, it only does it for one letter, my bad, okay. So you'll see that so this is superscript, and I've just used the code up for one letter there, and I'll do the same thing. I'll just reverse this back down. So if I can hold the space bar and it just advances along. So, whoa. And if I press code and down, Okay, so code and up will get me superscript, and code and down will get me subscript. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so I think now the other thing that is worth looking at is the whole kind of what was the major attraction for these at the time, which was the correction function. Now, unfortunately, because I don't have a correction ribbon in this machine, how about I'm going to, and I can actually show you that as we go, right? So I will get a correction ribbon out, I'll put it in the machine, and I can show you how to load it, how to load the correction film, and we'll also have a look at the daisy wheel. So if I get the ribbon box I had earlier, so I don't have any scissors in armor. Oh, that ripped open really easily, that's good. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this on camera, but it's a very different type of ribbon, right? It's plastic so it's plastic film on one side with just kind of carbon, well, what would be printer toner, but it's just carbon stuck to the film on the other. So I can just I need to have this down. The printer head won't move whilst this section is up, but if I just wanted to, say, move that to the center to make it easy to change. It's not like your printer where as soon as you open the cover, the print head moves about of its own accord. This won't move. So I can pull this ribbon out, and if I put them next to each other, we can see that the ribbons are very different. You can see that the bottom one is the nylon and the top is the carbon. And if you're ever looking at one and you're not really sure, they do have different color kind of tension wheels on them. So this one, really straightforward. There is a little window on this as well, so you can see how far through the ribbon has gone, because this is an empty spool on this side and it just winds through here. I did pull apart one of these one day to see if I could rewind it and maybe see what happens if I did try and use the ribbon again, if maybe I kind of got it so it was just half the spacing, so I got most of the letters and I was just kind of playing games. These are really hard to get apart, and there is a spring in it, so if you pull these apart and the spring gets out, and I just gave up and threw it out. So I'll put this in. Oh, actually no, first I will show you the correction ribbon. Okay, so the correction ribbon is this. We can see over here a bunch of letters where it's been used to lift off some printing. And so that's really straightforward to change this out. I just pull out this bit here, goes, oh crap, just dropped that. But that goes on, oh, what a disaster. Okay, so that goes on this little spindle here. And now I've got to find it. There we go. Roll that back up. Okay, so this goes this way, it comes down through, there's this little guide here. I need to wind that around a little bit more. Sorry, I don't know how to do this without kind of getting my hands in the way. So if I put this, it just clicks onto that spool, and then it goes along the front here. It is a little bit funny, and then it does, now that, there we go, so I can wind that up. That has a twist in it. Let's just twist it around. Let's just pull it all off and start from scratch. Rightio. So when you have this spool, let's just wasted a whole bunch of correction ribbon, but like I said, I don't tend to use the correction part of it, so I'm not really fussed. This is what they look like, right? So they come, when you see these online, you can still get these a lot more easily than you can get the ribbons. But so this goes, and you can tell by looking at it that when we look at this one, it goes with kind of like this, the tacky, it's got a smooth side and it's got a slightly tacky side, and the tacky side is what needs to go against the paper so that it lifts the letters off. So if we put this in, so tacky side facing in, and then it comes down, and then if I turn this around on its side and push that on, and then turn this bit on its side and push it on, so, and it is supposed to, a little bit of dust there, it is supposed to twist, but that's okay. So that's in right. So that's a way harder than putting in the ribbon cartridge, which just sits in and slots down. Whilst we're here, we will, so this is the daisy wheel. It just, you pull this little lever here, pull that towards you, and then the daisy wheel sits in a little cassette cartridge, and it comes all the way out. So this is the 1012 Prestige typeface. And you'll see, just if we have a look at this, there's only one letter or one character per little kind of bar on the daisy, or I don't know, is that called a petal? And so that's how they work. So all the way around. And then this just spins super quickly. So there we go, and snaps back in. Now doing that, you loosen the ribbon. So just use your little ribbon tension down here, wind that anti-clockwise, and that will tighten the ribbon up. So now, hopefully, right, so I'm still in the center, so code and center should turn that center function off. Now, I'm just going to type some words. All right, so if I enter this up, we can see that, so it's a very different looking kind of ribbon, and it's a very front end, so this will get better if I type a few more words. But if I wanted to, when we type, if we make a mistake and then we backspace, we've got to do that before we press enter. Okay, so let's try that again. Oops, you might not be able to see it, but I've actually typed words with a Z, right? So what I want to do, I need to zoom out for this. I want to undo my words with a Z typo. So what I do is I hit this button. So this button, if I hit it once, will just remove the Z. So I'll zoom back in and then hit it so you can actually see it do it. Okay, so we're looking down here. So I've typed Z, I haven't hit enter or anything like that. So if I just hit that back arrow down the bottom once, it's supposed to remove it, it didn't work. All right, problem solved. It wasn't really an issue. It wasn't an issue at all. All it was I was at a bit of the correcting film ribbon that just was old and the tackiness wasn't working. Anyway, so if I put the ribbon back in it, and let's try this again. Now, I'm going to zoom in, and again, we might not be able to see, but I've written this is a sample sentences. Oops, I don't want sentences. This is a sample sentence. So if I backspace, so the backspace down the bottom next to the space bar once, and then let's do it again. Now I'll index that up so we can see it. So can you see, does this zoom in further? It does go in further. So what we can see is that, so sentence, and then you can see a really pale S and a pale dot. So that's because it's tried to lift the carbon off. And now that we're a few rows into the carbon, you can see a bit of a difference between that and then the nylon type. So this is how that works. And if I want to then reverse all the way back down to where it was, I can now continue to type. This is what it looks like. So I've erased that S and the full stop and put it in where it should do, and then written some more words. So it's not perfect. You still have an imprint on the paper, but yeah, it's better than liquid paper or whiteout and those horrible typewriter erasers that leave crumbs. Rah! Anyway, if you've watched any of my other recent videos, you know how much I hate them. They just fill up typewriters with gunk. Anyway, so that's how that works. So the other thing that it does, and I won't do this on zoom in because I think we understand how it works now, you can actually erase a full word, or so you can erase a full line. So if I go back up, so I've just, that's not a word, it's just a bunch of letters, but it measures it from the space. So if I now hit word out, it's now erased everything up to the most recent space, and I can start typing again. Now, if I want the whole row that I've typed out to be deleted, so I've typed, I want this row to be deleted. I hit code and line out. All right, and if I zoom in, it's a little bit of mixed success with this. I think we're getting into some of the fresher, hasn't been exposed to air for goodness knows how many years, bits of that little correction ribbon. So it got a little bit better down this end. It's not perfect, but again, it doesn't matter. So that function's there if for some reason you want to use it and you are using a carbon ribbon. But if you're using a nylon ribbon, then it's not going to work because there's nothing to lift out. And yeah, it doesn't add anything to me. I don't use it. So I think that is basically the whole machine. Now, one thing I will say is I don't know. One of the things I don't remember is, so this is the auto return function. What this should be in theory is that when this is turned on, as soon as you hit spacebar or the dash, it also acts as a line. So if you wanted to, I suppose, like write lists of things, instead of always having to reach over for the enter key, you could just write your list of say, fruits and vegetables. But for some reason it doesn't work. So I'm not really quite sure why that is. We'll try it again, just whilst I've got the camera on, just in case it suddenly started working. But it wasn't working earlier, and I never use it, so I don't care if it works or not. So say I want to type a list of fruit. What should happen is if I press code on, I should be able to say, and then the space bar should return it to the new line, but it doesn't. So, and then if I wanted to turn the auto return off, then code and 8 would turn it off. But it doesn't matter, it doesn't work, so it's kind of a bit of a moot point. Anyway, so that's basically kind of the end of the functional review of this machine. So now, where this machine is attractive is that it is such a light touch. Now, if you're someone who struggles with any sort of kind of arthritis or finger pain or even some stiffness, this has an action very similar to a computer keyboard. So this is going to be way easier on your fingers and your wrists. So especially, and if you're doing lots of typing, then yeah, you're going to have a lot less hand fatigue using a machine like this than you do if you were using a manual typewriter, no matter how light and snappy the manual typewriter action is. If you can type quickly, sometimes the machine can't keep up, and it keeps up, but it's a few beats behind you, and that can be disconcerting in the beginning. And I hated it in the beginning. I was like, this is annoying. I wanted to have that push key, strike paper, and then move along, and it all happens in a 100% repeatable process. Whereas this one, it doesn't always keep up. So I'll try and type a sentence really quickly and see when I take my fingers off the keys how many keystrokes it is behind. So I think it was only like two letters behind me there, but that's okay. I don't type that fast. I'm like 40 words a minute on a good day. So if you are a faster typist, then that might be something that you appreciate. I do like that it has a beep instead of a bell. Now, one of the things that I do with my typewriters is I've talked about this in other videos. I find the keys hitting the platen, I don't like the percussion, the staccato sound on my eardrums. It actually hurts my ears a little bit. So this is quieter than a manual machine, but I still like sometimes to have my headphones on, or if I'm watching a video and taking notes, then sometimes I don't hear the beep through the headphones as much as I do like a bing, like a bell. But that's okay. That's not a complaint. I do like having it just be a little bit closer to a computer keyboard. I'm really bad at remembering to go Shift 8 when I want an apostrophe, and just having the Shift and the 8 down at the same time on a manual machine, I end up with, like, if I write I'm, it generally says I8M. So yeah, okay. A bad tradesman blames his tools, but that's just one of the quirks that I find. So having it more similar to a traditional keyboard is good. It doesn't have the little locating lugs that a keyboard has on the F and the J on your computer. So it means you still need to look at the keyboard every so often just to make sure your fingers are in the right spot. If you are like me and you're touch typing and you're off kind of like looking up into the corner of the room going do-do-do-do-do, you can come back to a sentence of gobbledygook. But that happens on a manual typewriter as well. Otherwise, yeah, look, I really like this machine just because it can be really easy. If I am tired, I've had a long day of kind of using my hands for other things as well. Sometimes my hands can get quite sore. The other thing I have is sometimes my joints get sore. I have to be very careful to keep my vitamin D up. Otherwise, I do kind of feel it in my fingers. I played piano for years and years and years and years, and so I think I've started to wear the joints out in my knuckles. So I can get a little bit of pain there sometimes. So that's something that helps. So it's going to be easier on your wrists. I don't get wrist pain, but it will be easier on your wrists. It will be easier on your fingers. I do like the fact that I can, in theory, change the typeface. Now, I don't have any other of the daisy wheels in any other typeface or font, but should they ever pop up on Marketplace, then I will grab them, because that's pretty nifty because you can get quite a variety. And then, yeah, the biggest downside, and I'm going to say, apart from the fact that this is electronic, if you are a purist, the biggest downside to this machine is just the fact that these ribbons are no longer made. And they're both single use, right? So unlike with a traditional red and black typewriter ribbon, where you can type and type and type and type and type and type, and you change the ribbon when you've decided you can't read it anymore, the machine will tell you have to change the ribbon because you've come to the end of the road. So yeah. Anyway, so look, I hope this has been helpful. It is quite a long, comprehensive review because there are a lot of functions for these things, and it is a little bit overwhelming in the beginning, and sometimes reading through the manual is not fun. So hopefully if you have one of these machines, or even one of the later ones where the commands might change a little bit, like the names have been tweaked slightly, but hopefully that will help you understand what they all do. And yeah, if there's some quirk that I've missed with the auto return, and you know what it is, let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. So yeah, so this is just a bit of a different machine, right? So if you want to just a different experience that you might find good, bad, or otherwise, and one of them pops up for 10, 15, 20 bucks with some ribbons, or indeed free, yeah, grab it and have a go. I'm never ever going to try fixing one of these machines. So if you're getting one as a project, best of luck to you. But yeah, I think this makes a nice alternative. And the other thing I can do is I normally type at a desk, but sometimes, particularly in winter when it's cold, I'll be snuggled up in my armchair and I can have this on a lap tray and be typing away. And because the action is so relatively light, it's easy to type on one of these on my lap, whereas I find it a little bit harder than with a manual typewriter, where you really do need that kind of typing position to get action on the keys. And if you don't have the typing position on manual typewriters, you will end up, you'll get really fatigued really quickly. So yeah, so something else to consider. Thank you very much for joining me today at Finger Thinking. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Please hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I always love it when I've found that someone else is enjoying the world of typewriters with me, or indeed I've actually managed to bring you some enjoyment or help you with your challenge. So I really do appreciate the liking and subscribing. It helps spread the word on the YouTube algorithm. Otherwise, if you have one of these, or a 25 or a 35 or a 325 or a 450 or any of them, yeah, let me know your thoughts below. I'd be really keen to hear them. I try and respond to all of the comments. So yeah, I really enjoy knowing what people know that I don't. I love that learning part and that interaction part of it. So thank you very much for spending some more time here with me at Finger Thinking today. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great day.